Well, hello students. I hope you're having a great day. Today we're going to see Sexist and Biased Language by your teachers, Jennifer, Leonardo, Derek, and Nydia. We're going to begin.
Okay, so we're going to start by giving you guys the definitions for both of these concepts so we can have a clear base on what we are studying. So biased language, these are words and phrases that are considered prejudiced, offensive, and hurtful. Biased language includes expressions that demean or exclude people because of their age, sex, race, ethnicity, social class, physical, or mental traits. Then we have sexist language. These ones refers to words and phrases that demean, ignore, or stereotype members of either sex that needlessly call attention to the gender. So the main difference between these two is that biased language focuses on more aspects of the person who we are talking or writing about, such as age, sex, race, etc. And this one only focuses on the gender. And we will continue with the applications.
Okay, so we're going to see the applications first for the sexist language. Okay, we're going to start with the most common sexist language uses. We have the generic pronouns. That is when the plural can be substituted or the pronoun can be eliminated. Okay, we have the first example. The student is accorded freedom to pursue his own educational interests. This is imprecise unless this school enrolls only men or women. It will be better to say students are accorded freedom to pursue their own educational interests, as in plural. We have also when a job title that links the job to a single sex when either sex can perform this job. And we have the examples of firemen, policemen, and mailmen, making the assumption that it's only for men. We have when a single sex pronoun in conjunction with a neutral job title, so that the implication is that the job belongs to a single sex. And we have the example of the nurse awake her patients, making the assumption that nurses can be only women. And we have the last one, that is any other use of language that unnecessarily and arbitrarily makes gender distinctions, as early men used a system of gestures to communicate, as if all early people, were only men.
Now we're going to see how to avoid sexist language. Although that avoiding sexist language may at first seem awkward and unfamiliar, it is possible to use gender-neutral language gracefully and discreetly. When using pronouns, you have several choices and we have to pick the one that seems most natural in context. Change singular nouns to plurals and use a gender-neutral pronoun or try to avoid the pronoun entirely. For example, each student must have his notebook with him in class. Use all students must have notebooks with them in class. When using a singular adjective like each or every, avoid using a pronoun. For example, instead of each student must hand in his homework on Thursday, use each student must hand in the assignment homework on Thursday. When using a job title, try to eliminate the pronouns. For example, instead of a truck driver should plan his route carefully, use a truck driver should plan the travel route carefully. When eliminating the pronouns seems unavoidable, use both male and female pronouns. For example, instead of a student should meet with his advisor, use a student should meet with his or her advisor. When using titles, instead of using sex-linked titles, use neutral titles. For example, with firemen, policemen, and mailmen, we can use firefighter, police officer, and or postal worker. And with other various mothers, avoid using man as a noun when referring to man and woman. For example, instead of early men used a system of gestures to communicate, use early humans used, or early men and women.
Now I'm going to talk about biased language. Avoid based language. Age. Avoid derogatory or condescending terms associated with age. Old lady can be rephrased as a woman in her 80s, while an immature adolescent is better described as a teenager. For example, the old lady was the first one to be vaccinated in New York. You can use a woman in her 80s was the first one to be vaccinated in New York. Politics. In any election campaign, words referring to politics are full of connotations. Consider, for instance, how the word liberal has been used with positive or negative connotations in various election campaigns. Take care with words or in phrases like radical, left wing, and right wing. For example, avoid. If he is elect, he would be the first person of color in the White House. Use, if he is elect, he would be the first African American in the White House. Religion. Some other encyclopedia editions refer to devout Catholics and fanatical Muslims. Examine your use of words that sound derogatory or exclusionary, such as cult or fundamentalist. Fund, Fundamental. Uh, I can say that word. In terms such as these people that emphasize difference, or even the word we when it implies that all your readers share your beliefs. For example, avoid devout Islamics were seen protesting online. Use devout people were seen protesting online. Health and abilities. Avoid phrases like conf- confined to a wheelchair and victim of a disease, so as not to focus on differences and disability. Do not draw unnecessary attention to a disability or an illness. For example, avoid. A person confined to a wheelchair complain about the difficulties of using public transportation, and use a wheelchair user complain about the difficulties of using public transportation. Sexual orientation. Refer to a person's sexual orientation only if the information is necessary to your content. Since you will not necessarily know your reader's sexual orientation, do not assume it is the same as your own. And beware of using terms and making comments that might offend. For example, avoid. A lesbian woman spoke with the president about gay rights, and use a woman spoke with the president about equal rights.
Okay, so now I'm going to briefly talk about why should we avoid the biased language in the first place. So I have a little quote here. Biased language is free from stereotypes or exclusive terminology regarding gender, race, age, disability, class, or sexual orientation, since this takes the focus away on what you are writing or saying if you're speaking it, and you should only focus like on the facts and what happened. In our case, we are probably writing about different topics, so we should not focus on the things that don't really matter or don't really, yeah, that don't really matter for what we are writing. And we should be as unbiased as we can always. And well, that would be it from our part. If you have any questions, let us know during the session. And we hope to see you soon with some activities to practice the biased language and sexist language so we can make it unbiased. Thank you.